Hey movie buffers, Movie Buff 29 coming at you with another video. This time I'm going to be giving a review and synopsis from Stranger Things. I've done that a few days ago in one of my recent videos. So I talked about episode 1 and all the crazy things that happened. Now I'm going to do a review and synopsis of episode 2, Vecna's Curse. So let's get into it. All right, so if you remember from the last scene of the first episode, Chrissy Cunningham lost her life. She was killed by this evil being in front of Eddie, and now we get to see what happens right after. But first, let's talk about the end of season 3, when Joyce and Hopper were down in the basement of the Starcourt Mall, getting rid of this machine. So we know that Hopper wasn't there when Joyce hit that or pulled that key, and everything got destroyed. So we some of us assumed that Hopper. And some of us were saying that he was alive, and we had to wait 2 years just to figure out what happened. Like we were so lost and confused, and we were hopeful that Hopper was alive. But if you remember the end of season 3, we went to this prison. It was like a Russian prison, and we see them saying something about an American. And we saw the Demogorgon at the end killing someone. And that's pretty much all they gave us. So we assumed that it's Hopper because they said American, and Hopper was an American. But let's talk about what happened to Mr. Hopper. So as Joyce was about to push the button, Hopper didn't realize he couldn't really get back to Joyce. He pretty much either had to die or run the other way. So that's what he did. He ran the other way. He jumped right as the machine broke or got destroyed, and then it was destroyed. And then we pan out and we see him on the floor. Everything around him is on fire. And then we see him getting up and climbing onto one of the upper floors, and then we see Russian soldiers coming in, pulling a gun to him, and so he's been taken prisoner at one of the camps in Russia, which is probably the Russian camp that was seen at the end of season 3. But we know that he's alive. But however, he's being tortured. He's being, abused, and they really wanted to know the name of the woman that was with him, but he's not going to tell him. So that's probably why he had that letter sent, or that package sent to Joyce, so that way he can let her know without letting her know that he's alive. That's going on with him. We'll develop more as the episodes come. And then we pan out to Max, who wakens the next morning, and then she is having a lot of medicine, which is probably for her headaches, because she's been getting a lot of headaches. So she was doing that, and then she hears a policeman coming to Eddie Munson's trailer right across the street from them, and her mom, her mom's like, Eddie Munson, he's up to no good again. And then we see Eddie's trailer, and then we see a guy sitting on one of the steps. It looks like it probably was his dad. And then we see that there is Chrissy Cunningham. Her eyes were like shut out. Her bones were broken. Her jaw was snapped. So they didn't know what was going on. And then Max was kind of ran up to the trailer, or Eddie's trailer, and then she kind of sees Chrissy, in a gross, awful way, and she's just like what the heck? And so she knows something is going on, so she is going to try and get some help and see what happened. And then we pan out to a plane, which is me and Mike, because he's going to California to see Will, 11, and Jonathan. So so it was Will, Jonathan, Argyle, and 11 there to greet Mike when he came in, and 11 just was like Mike. So it was good seeing them reconnected again, because with everything that's going on with 11's life, it's good for her to have Mike there with her. But yeah, so she says what they're going to do. They're going to have breakfast burritos, and 11 loves breakfast burritos, and hopefully she still likes Egos, but yeah, so she's excited to have Mike there. So they all went out, and then when they were going off the side, we see Murray. If you remember Murray, he was the guy who pretty much knew or kind of helped everyone stop the Russians from invading Hawkins, Indiana. So he was there, and he took a cab to Joyce's house, because they're going to get to the bottom of that package that was sent to Joyce, which brings up that Joyce knows that it's Hopper, and then Murray's like, well, I don't know about that. So then we see, then we go to Robin and Steve, who are working at the video store, like I mentioned in my last video, and I think Robin has a crush on this girl, Vicky. So she's telling Steve all about Vicky, and Steve's like, yep. Then after a few minutes of brief conversation, they heard on the news about Chrissy Cunningham's death, and they're just kind of concerned, because anytime they hear the word death, sometimes it might mean, well, I can't really say that word, but unalive, and it kind of raises some concerns with them. And then let's figure out what Lucas was up to, because remember, he was going to an after party with the guys on the basketball team, and so it looks like they were at a I guess it was Benny's Burgers, but I think it's a vacant lot or a vacant area. So they all had a party in there, and you see Lucas throwing up in the toilet. So it looks like they had a fun night, and then we see. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. And we see them watching TV, and then they saw that a Hawkins student was found unalived. So, and then Jason was like, because he hasn't heard from Chrissy, and I believe they were dating at the time. So that was a concern for him. And then we pan out to Nancy, who is at school with the people on the newspaper team, and they were watching the news coverage as well of the student that was unalive. So her and her partner Fred went out to Eddie Munson's trailer to see what was going on and see if they can get an exclusive on who the student was and what happened to her. So that's what they were going to do. So you see them going to the trailer park and just figuring out what happened. Then we see everyone just standing outside. We see policemen. So it's a really big scene out there. And then it's going everywhere. So then we pan out to Dustin and his mom watching the coverage as well on the news. And then Max shows up, and she was like, look, dude, something is going up. Something happened to the student. How she was unalive. She looked so awful, like someone mutilated her. And Dustin was like, are you sure? And then she goes, yeah. Then I saw her and Eddie going into the trailer last night. And, Max, that assumes that Max thinks that Eddie might have something to do with it. But the thing is that Eddie has disappeared. So now the part they're trying to figure out is how to find Eddie. But before that, she also explained to Dustin that after they went in the trailer, she and her mom were watching TV, and then all of a sudden the power goes out, or else flickering, the lights were flickering, and then all of a sudden, like, she heard Eddie scream, got into his car, and just drove off, like really, like screeching his tires, just getting out of there. So she kind of knows something was up. And so yeah, so they were. She was saying that he also had a scared look on his face, and she was just thinking about the time where all the events that happened in Hawkins, and she was saying that maybe he was scared because he killed someone, or she was like trying to figure out how to say it, but then Dustin goes, or something else, did something to her, and she was like, "Yep." So now they have to work together to figure out what's going on, because when something happens like this in Hawkins, who to call. Max and her team. Well, I guess it's doesn't matter, but Mike is in California, so Mike can't really help. So now it's just going to be up to them two to figure out what's going on. And then we pan out to California, where we see Murray outside of Joyce in the buyer's house. So Murray comes in, and they were, she's showing him the letter that was sent to her, and they're just trying to figure out what happened. What happened to Hopper? Is he still, alive, or what? And so they're talking a little bit about that. And then they decided, and then there is this, I guess this number. Sorry, not the number. If I remember, because Murray was like asking, like, "Are you sure it's from Hopper?" And Joyce is like, "Yeah, because it's it said." She said something about Enzo, and that was the restaurant that Hopper was supposed to meet Joyce at when they were technically on a date. So only Hopper knows that she was that only her and Hopper know about Enzo. So that's why she figured that Hopper is alive. And then Murray's just like, well, maybe you're not the only one that knows. So yeah, while all that's going on, we pan out to the roller rink where Will, Eleven, and Mike are going to be spending most of the day, while Jonathan and Argyle, go have fun. So everyone's having fun because it's spring break. There's no school. Everyone's just loving life. So Will, Eleven, and Mike are getting skates, and then then we kind of figure out that Elle was lying to Mike, saying that she has all these friends. She's coming here all the time for like birthday parties and fun things. She's very popular. And Will's just like, girl, stop lying. And she's like, no, I'm not. I'm good. So then Mike, so they were skating on the rink, having fun, and then guess who walks in the roller rink? Yep, Angela, the one who does not like Elle. So she walks in with her friends, and she sees that Elle is there with Mike, and she's like, I guess that snitch has a boyfriend. So yeah, so something's going to happen. But then we pan out to where Lucas is at. So he is just talking with one of his teammates. Talking about the police, and then the student that was unalive. And so they're just like, "Are you okay?" Like, we're good. So, yeah. But we kind of see that maybe something is going on with one of his teammates. But yeah, and then Jason is being talked to by the police, saying, "What are you guys doing here? Do you have any fun?" Then Jason's like, "You gonna arrest me for drinking?" And he goes, "Well, you're technically minor, so we could, or trespassing, but just kind of like nonsense right now." And then Jason was like, "Well, like what?" Because he asked him about his girlfriend, like, was she at the party? And then he goes, "Chrissy," And then he goes, no, she wasn't. But then he goes, is that kind of weird that you're not there with your girlfriend? Like your girlfriend wasn't there with you? And then they ask, where are you last year? Then he goes, after the game. And then she goes, wait. And then Jason goes, wait, was Chrissy the one that was unalive? But the police aren't going to ask that or say anything like that. And then they ask if she bought drugs, and then he goes, nope, Chrissy does not mess with that. And and then he brings up the kid, Eddie Munson. Then he goes, what? Like, what? She would never buy drugs from him. She's a perfect, straight edge girl. And then he goes, does Eddie have something to do with this? And then they go, well, they're not saying anything. But so that Jason is pretty pissed off at Eddie, even though we don't know exactly. They don't know exactly what happened. So that Jason's going to try and get to the bottom of it. So he walks out all mad. So he's going to try to find Eddie, and then things like that. So I guess we'll see how it goes. So now we see Max and Dustin on their way to the video store. So they're gonna try to find Eddie, and because they can only to find out what happened, they have to talk to the person who was there. And since Chrissy's not around anymore, it's all up to Eddie to see what exactly happened. So they're trying to find him, and then Robin's like, well, you shouldn't come today, it's busy, it's the week, it's during spring break, it's time to do something else. But nothing's going to stop him. All right, and then we see Nancy and Fred on their way to the trailer to see what's going on, and they're just having small banters, and then he was like, what about you and John? Bring up Jonathan. I was like, dude, Jonathan's 2,000 miles away. Act professional. Even though I know it's a school paper, but still. Nancy ain't got time for that. She's on a case. So we see that, they were being led around, so they're trying to figure out what's going on. So I guess we will see what happens there. And then we go out to Jonathan and Argyle, and they're having fun. They're playing golf, I guess, near a junkyard in the middle of the road. And it was they know how to spend their day. Not really any important information. They're just talking about nightmare circles and things like that. So then at the roller rink, we see that Mike, Will, and 11 are enjoying some refreshments. And then guess who pulls up? Angela. And then she's kind of flirting with Mike. And that kind of just oh, Angela, hi, this is my boyfriend, Mike. And then she goes, nice to meet you, Mike. And something's going down. Because Mike is not a person that popular girls will fall for. But and then she was like, then they were like, oh yeah, and Mike's like, oh yeah, it's good to meet my Elle's friends. And then she goes, friends, huh? Well, let's go skate, Jane. So so they went to. So she grabs 11's hand, and then they walk out in the middle of the rink, and then Will knows something's going on, and he's just frozen. He doesn't know what to do. But then Will sees someone filming something, and then he goes, Mike, 11 hasn't tell you everything. She has problems here. She's not popular. She gets bullied a lot, and so they have to watch what's going to happen to 11. So they stop. They put her. They put 11 in the middle of the rink, and then they're playing a song dedicated to her and called her a snitch. So they're playing the song, I think it was Wipeout. And then everyone's just running, skating around 11, calling her a snitch, a freak, loser, and just tormenting her verbally. But then it gets very bad as as they are like trying to push her, trying to make her fall, wipe out like the song. And then Mike, was like, dude, you need to stop. Like, stop the song. Like, he's trying to stop it. But that guy's like, nope. And then Angela comes out, or was it Angela? It was someone. I think. No. Yeah, it was one of Angela's friends. They threw a drink on her, and then 11 falls to the ground. And then Mike sees what's going on, and he's like crap. And then Angela was like, look, dummy, no food on the drinks. Are you gonna snitch? Or something like that. I don't know. She said something like that. And then Mike was trying to skate to her, and then Elle just was like, nope, I'm done with this. So she walks out, and I feel so bad for I feel so bad for her. But she shouldn't have lied to Mike. Like, it's just our lives will catch up to us, and unfortunately Elle had to learn the hard way about that reality, and that was just kind of sad. And then yep, so that's going on. So everything, like a lot of things are going on right now in California and Hawkins. As we see, then we see we go back to the buyer's home, where we see Murray and Joyce. They're making the phone call. They're trying to call, I guess the number that was on the letter. So they used a software which was like kind of like a VPN, where they'll put you somewhere else. Well, they won't give you your exact location. So they said that, oh, you're from North Carolina. So she goes, okay. So she calls the phone, and then this guy picks up. And he was like, oh, well, hey, this is Enzo or something like that. And she goes, I would like to make a reservation. Which, it kind of took me a while to realize what she was doing. But yeah, so she was like, yep, I need to make a reservation for Enzo. She goes, okay. But then he goes, well, you're going to have to pay a deposit. And she goes, how much? He goes, $40,000. And he goes, bring it to Alaska to Yuri's Fish Fry, and give him the money, and he's going to give him a hopper. Simple trade. And then Joyce is like, oh, okay, but like we've got to speak to Hopper first before we do anything like that. And all of a sudden, like, this woman cuts in, banging on the door because he's at a phone booth, and she was saying something in Russian. And then he goes, well, I can't let you talk to Hopper because he's stuck, but with my help, we can make him unstuck. And then she goes, how do I trust you? I don't know who you are. And then the woman's saying something else in Russian, and then he goes, look, 2 days, you come in 2 days, bring $40,000 or no friend. And she goes, okay. So now, looks like they're going to go on a trip to Alaska and see what's going on with Hopper. So then we go back to the prison where Hopper is at, and after being up some more, him not talking, they were like, we're going to send him to hell. So, something is going down there. So, yep. So that's all that's going on so far. It's just crazy how things are just unfolding already. With Will, with Eleven, with Hopper, Joyce, like all these characters. Like, I think Jonathan and Argyle is pretty much the only two that are having the time of their lives. So, because they don't know what's going on. Yeah, so it's kind of cool to see that. At least, some people are having, the time of their life during spring break. So then, so we see, I guess, a general coming in and looking at Chrissy's body and saying that, whoa, what happened here? And then we kind of pan out to the boys on the basketball team, saying that, Eddie did something to Chrissy, he's sick, we got to figure out what's going on. And then they're like, does anyone know Eddie? And then Lucas is like, yeah, he's part of like the Hellfire Club. And then they look at him like, how do you know about that? Because, it's my sister, she's a total nerd. And you do not diss Erica like that. If she finds out you're doing that, ooh, she will give you a mouthful. But yeah, so now they know that Lucas knows who is Eddie Munson, so they're going to kind of use him to see if they can get to him. But yeah, so and then they were like trying to figure out where Eddie is at and trying to figure out who knows where he's at and things like that. So it's gonna be crazy what happens. Then we go out to the video store again and we see Steve putting on his Steve charm. He only talks to the female customers, and because he's trying to find a soulmate. But he kind of messed that up. How Steve goes. And then Max was like, all right, guys, we have a lead. They figured they'd talk about where Eddie gets his drugs at from this guy named Reefer Rick. And then Dustin's like, well, do you know where he lives? And then she goes, nope. He's so much of a legend that people don't even know who he is. Yep. So then Steve was like, well, if this Reefer Rick is a drug dealer, he's probably has a record, because he's probably been busted by the police. And then Dustin, then this is the first part where we see Dustin and Steve acting like a married couple, which is like a kind of like a theme, but they're just so fun to be together. So, but yeah. So, and then they were like, all right, what are you trying to tell us, Steve? And then we're like, well, if we look at some of the videos that he rented, maybe we could see where he lives. Because once you rent a video, it has your address, it has everything about you. And then we're looking, and then after a few chances, they were like, oh, Cheech and Chong. I think it was Cheech and Chong. It was something. I guess it was something like that. Yeah, Cheech and Chong, and then then they found the address, and so they were like, "It's out by Lover's Lake, so let's go." So they have an idea. So they left the video store and are heading over to Lover's Lake to see where Eddie is at. And then we see Nancy knocking on the door, talking to Eddie's dad, and then she was like, "Look, if you want to get your side of the story, we're focused on you. If we can tell your story, not the ones that already going on, but we can tell your story." Which actually helps her get a shoe in. So she's like, "All right, Fred, you stay over there. I'm gonna go talk to him." And then he goes, and so she's asking him all right, let's talk about this. And then we see Fred, just walking around, and then he hears something. So we see him going into the forest, kind of like what Chrissy did right before she was unalive. And then Nancy is talking to the dad, while Fred is just walking around, and then he hears sees the grandfather clog the same thing Christy saw, so we know something's going to go down. And then we see all these corpse, saying that calling him a murderer, because we found out that he was in a car accident and he ended up killing people because I think he was drunk or things like that. That's why he has a scar on his face. So he's just having these corpses calling him a murderer. So he's running around trying to figure out what's going on. So Murray and Joyce are trying to figure out a little bit about the voice. So they recorded the conversation between Joyce and Enzo, and they were like, and then Joy, after going over a few times, they're like, "Hey, do you notice the woman talking on the outside? She's talking to Enzo." And then Murray's like, "Okay, let's play it." And so she's saying something in Russian, so Joyce asks him to translate it. And then he goes, "I can't understand it. It's too low. We need something else." And then she takes the tape and goes into oh, I don't know which room it is. I think it's Will Jonathan's room. And then she plays it on the big cassette tape player. And so we know that something's going on. And then we see, and then he goes, like maybe it's something, or or guards or things like that. And so he goes, Hopper is stuck. And then we see him getting thrown into a prison, and then Enzo can make him unstuck. That means he can get him out of prison. Ooh. I know when I saw that, I'm like, oh, they're on the way to get Hopper. He's like, yeah. And then at the roller rink, we see Mike was kind of like confronting Will and go, look, like you didn't tell me this. It's like he's kind of pretty much putting the blame on Will. And then he goes, well, it's not like you're the innocent one, because you've been moping, you've been whining, you've been complaining the last few days. And then he goes, well, I've been acting like a third wheel. So they're having their first fight in California. And then Mike was like, whatever, Will, just leave me alone. And then he goes, what? And then Will goes, what about us? Like, you're mad that I didn't get to talk to you? And they're like, and we kind of figured out something. And I feel like Will does have a crush on Mike, and he's kind of letting it known without letting him know, because Mike kind of confronted him in the last season where he goes, well, it's all my fault you don't like girls. And then he was like, well, you haven't reached out. It's been almost a year. And then Mike goes, well, you haven't reached out to me either. Like, oh my gosh, like they are acting like a married couple too. But they were just like, all right, let's just find Al and just figure out what's going on. And then we see Al crying in one of the closets, or an employee's, I guess, closet. And then she has that look on her face like, ooh, she's ready to give Angela hell. So she walks out and she goes, she confronts Angela and goes, I want you to say sorry for me. I want you to tell my boyfriend it was a joke, that we really are friends. She's trying to find a nice way to kind of mend that. And then Angela's like, nope. It's like, sorry, you can't cry to your teacher today. Like, you had to cry to your daddy. Oh wait, you don't have one, do you? Ooh, and I was like, beat her up, Elle, beat her up. So then we see kind of Elle giving that, when she was about to use her power, she had that really evil look on her face. So she took one of the skates, and then she walks up to Angela, and then she whacks her with this skate, and then she's like bleeding from her here. There's a cut right here. Then Mike and Will hears it, and then they go, "What's going on?" And then we see her bleeding, and she's crying. She's like, "Oh my god, I'm dying. I'm like, oh, it's a simple fix." But then Elle was just like looking down. I was like, "Oh crap, what did I do?" And Elle just like feels really bad about what happened. I mean, there might have been a better way, but to each his own. Like, I'm not saying Angela deserved it, but So then they went to Reefer Rick's place. Dustin, Max, Robin, and Steve, and they knocked on his door like, hey, we want to help. Do you know where Eddie's at? And then they didn't find anything, so they found this shed like right across the way. So they went inside, and then they see Eddie hiding in one of the boats, like under a tarp. And then Eddie was like, and Steve, and like is holding like something to his throat. I think it was like a knife or something. And then and then Dustin's like, look, we're on your side, Eddie. We're on your side. We need to know what happened. And then after a minute or two, he was like, I don't know what happened. And then he just pretty much explained, like he'd like saying that you guys are gonna think I'm crazy. And then Max is like, try us, trust me. We've been in that department before. We know all about craziness. But yeah. So he's explaining what happened, and then we see Nancy trying to figure out where Fred's at after talking to the dad. She spent the last few hours looking for Fred, and then she was asking people around, and she sees Fred, and then they're like, nope. So she doesn't even know where he's at. And then we see Fred out in the middle of the road after walking into the forest, and then he sees a car on fire upside down, and then he has that frozen look in his face, and then and we see Eddie, saying that she's floated, she hung there, and then her bones snapped, her eyes looked like it was about to, her eyes just fell out, and then she just fell to the floor. Pretty much what we saw in the last episode. And they were like, oh crap, something's going on, isn't it? And then they explained to him, there's another world outside of this. It's a world hidden beneath us. Pretty much talking about the Upside Down, where they the last few seasons, but sometimes it goes into our world. And then Eddie's like, is it like Ghost? And she goes, and then it was worse than Ghost. And then we see Fred walking up to the car, and then we see Fred it was like a vision of Fred coming out of the car. He was like, and then Fred falls into a ditch, but he can't get out. And then we see this mysterious figure walking up to him, and then it's pretty much Fred's turn. So then Fred becomes unalive, and same thing happened to him. He floats in the air, his bones snap, and then his eyes just bug out, and then fall out, and then he just falls to the floor. Sorry, unalive. I know I can't hit that word button. Yep. So then they kind of feel. So then Dustin was like, this kind of reminds me of a dark wizard. His name is Vecna. And then we see a full frontal of Vecna. He looks like this design on Vecna is really amazing. It's I know it's gonna be something that they probably never faced before. But yeah, so now Vecna is in this episode, or in this season, and we get to see. Hopefully, we get to know more about his backstory. But yeah, that's pretty much Chapter 4, Episode 2. Chapter 4, Episode 2. So we know that the guy's name is Vecna, and he pretty much looks like he kills people. He kills people. It's kind of like Freddy Krueger, but I know Freddy Krueger, doesn't bring you into. Well, he kind of brings you in dreams, but he only comes to you when you're sleeping, and so no one's really asleep. So it's kind of a weird, interesting way to kind of play around with that. And then we have Nancy. So I wonder if he's going to come after anyone else. But yeah, so this is a really crazy season so far. Episode 2 is pretty much one of my favorites out of the 2 episodes I've seen so far, because it's really everything's really coming together. A lot of things are going on, and hopefully the season will kind of put a close on everything. Because I know the second part, I think it's the last. It's like this season series finale. So I think we're going to have a few more episodes. And I don't know if they're going to pick up for another season, but I heard this was the last season. I don't know, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, so we will go over the next episode soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more content. Drop a comment on what episode of season 4 was your favorite, and then we'll go from there. All right, this is Movie About 29 signing out. See ya.